I'm Jeff Matlow. Welcome to the best leadership podcast ever. Welcome back to the best leadership podcast ever. Today, I want to talk to you about 3 things that every successful company needs, but it starts in jail. You see, because if you're a criminal and you happen to get sentenced to death row, you're 7 times more likely to die of natural causes than you are of being executed. Prisons don't execute many people. That probably doesn't come as a surprise to you. It shouldn't. When the justice system commits to killing a criminal, the correction system isn't in any rush to get it done. Because why should they be? There isn't any benefit for them to hurry up and kill the person. In fact, they're actually demotivated to move fast. And this seems like a good time for us to talk about accountability. Listen, I don't know what your position is on capital punishment, and frankly, I don't care. Despite how I just started this little rant, we're not going to talk about killing people. That's not what this is about. It was just an analogy. You see, the justice system in that story represents any department in your organization, and the correction system represents any other department. The prisoner in the analogy is the embodiment of the responsibility that's passed from one department to another. Translating this to your business, one department has a responsibility to do something, and once they complete it, they hand it off to another department to fulfill their part of the process. That's what the justice system does with corrections. They hand off the responsibility. You know what? Let me give you a simple kind of everyday example that can make this easier to understand. A sales team's responsibility is to close new business. And once they complete their task, they hand that responsibility of the client off to the account team. But what if the account team, like the correction system in the death penalty scenario, what if they have no desire or motivation to fulfill their end of the bargain? What happens if the account team says, you know what, we're too busy. We aren't going to do anything with the new responsibility you gave us. We'll just let them sit around until our relationship with them dies of natural causes. Suddenly there's a breakdown. Suddenly the business no longer works. And here's the thing. This happens all the time, and you may not even realize it. Your company is like a 3-legged stool. And I don't care what company you're at, what industry, what type of organization, every company is like a 3-legged stool. Because there are 3 important things that have to work in harmony for a company to be effective and efficient. They are responsibility, accountability, and compliance. These behaviors each rely on the other for everything to work in harmony. And like that 3-legged stool, if one of them fails, the stool collapses and no longer works effectively and is really painful to sit in. You know what? I probably should have given you definitions of each of these concepts. That would have been a good idea to do already. But here we are. So here you go. Definition number 1, the duty to complete a task that is assigned to you. You probably think that's the definition of accountability, but you're wrong. That's responsibility, and it's an important difference. Here, let me say it again. Responsibility is the duty to complete a task that is assigned to you. We'll talk more about that in a second. First, accountability is the act of taking ownership for the actions and performance of you and your team. Meanwhile, compliance is the act of following rules, policies, or instructions as they're intended to be. You know what? You're listening to this, maybe you're out for a walk, maybe you're driving. It's hard to really let those definitions soak in, so let me simplify them for you. Responsibility is completing the task. Accountability is owning the result, and compliance is following the accepted processes. In other words, responsibility is about your work ethic, accountability is about the company culture, and compliance is the glue that bonds the two of those together. I've got a nifty chart that outlines the differences. You could go to thebestleadershipnewsletter.com and look for article number 312. and you can see the chart in there. Imagine a company, if you will, filled with a staff of compliant people who have no accountability. Now, as it turns out, I don't need much imagination here because these are the types of companies that hire me as a coach for their leadership and their teams. So in this compliant but not accountable company, the staff will tend to complete the tasks they're supposed to, but they just don't take initiative. So if the rules say they need to fill out a form in triplicate, they'll fill out that form 3 times. If they're supposed to work from 9 to 5, they'll work those hours and only those hours regardless of whatever else is going on. They won't proactively address problems and they won't creatively create solutions. They're not accountable, they're just compliant. And that company isn't going to grow because compliance isn't enough. Compliance keeps the lights on, but accountability is needed to drive growth, innovation, and leadership. As a leader, regardless of what your title is, it's your job to cultivate a culture of accountability while maintaining compliance and ensuring that individuals have a strong sense of responsibility. There are 5 things you need to do to get there. Here they are. Number 1, set clear expectations. You got to make sure that every employee knows what success looks like for them, for their team, and for the company. All 3 levels matter. Number 2, empower people. Let your team members make decisions on their own and be clear on what decisions need to come through you and what don't. And if they make a bad decision once, help them learn from it. If they keep repeating the error, that's a whole different podcast episode. And number 3, reward responsibility. Celebrate the people who proactively take responsibility, even when they fail at it. Number 4, lead by example. Be the model of accountability, responsibility, and compliance. There's absolutely no downside for you, and the upside is massive. And number 5, take the course on how to 10x your team's productivity. It's a life hack on how to quickly create a culture of responsibility, accountability, and compliance. You could find it at bytitleonly.com. Listen, the most successful leaders are the ones who know how to create balance and harmony between accountability, responsibility, and compliance. They don't just complete tasks. They take ownership, they follow through, they hold themselves and others accountable. So if your team feels like their job is best described as dead man walking, it's about time you looked at where your proverbial 3-legged stool has fallen apart. Because if you want to build a company that grows, innovates, and actually gets stuff done, these 3 things aren't optional, they're everything. If you want to understand more about how to implement a culture of accountability, responsibility, and compliance, just reach out to me and we can have a free consultation, a free chat. Leadership@bytitleonly.com. In the meantime, I really appreciate you taking your time to listen to this. If you like it, feel free to share it with a friend. Either way, you're the best. I mean it. And I'll see you next week. Bye.